Hi, thank you for tuning in to BPTV. I'm your host, Andy Amrine, and this is Around Town with Andy Amrine. And today we are going to be talking with Maria DeSimone Prasek, an amazing artist that does murals all over Southwest Pennsylvania and continuing to grow. So thank you for tuning in and hope you enjoy the life and times of Maria. We're in the studio of Maria DeSimone Prasek, and thank you for allowing us to be into your gorgeous shed.
My happy place.
Your happy
I call it my
place
happy
and
place.
so
I always say I'm
forth.
going to play in the studio.
But tell our viewers, who are you? I mean, who is Maria DeSimone Prasek? I mean, where do you come from? Where did you grow up? Where did you get your skills? I mean,
Sure.
you're an amazing artist, so I want
Thank
to show the world of who you are. So tell us a little bit about
Sure,
yourself.
thank you. Well, I still have a lot to learn, and I am certainly not one of the best artists out there. There are far better and much more creative people than myself, but I'm always learning, and I am self-taught. I was inspired as a very young child through my family. My father was an artist. If my father painted, he was like Sistine Chapel quality type of artist. My dad was incredible, but he was a contractor by trade. He didn't have time to paint, but he could, and we have paintings and drawings that he did when he was in grade school and high school that are examples of that work. Amazing. My grandfather, my grandmother, they were all creative. My grandfather was an inventor. He was like the crazy inventor guy that would just come up with pieces of equipment that he made from different things. He would go to their garbage piles back in the day when people didn't do that like they do now with upcycling and repurposing, and he would bring back an old TV cabinet and turn it into a dollhouse. My mother was artistic. My sisters, my aunts, everyone around me was just so creative. I thought everyone was an artist. So I said, I'm going to be an artist. So from as long as I can remember, just coloring and getting my hands into I was always making something, doing something with my hands, and I'm still that way.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in the Southside Slopes
Okay.
area, which was wonderful, and the local business district. I can remember going to the local parades and decorating our bikes and all. We always had fun with that. I always had a really cool decorated bike, you know what I mean?
What school did you go to?
I went to St. Joseph's in Mount Oliver,
Okay.
and grade school, Catholic school, where again the art classes and the creative, like the May crownings, and I can remember the month of May, which is one of my favorite times of year. I can remember we had to make maybe wreaths or crowns for the Blessed Mother or something. That was always one of my favorite things. I still have my artwork from when I was a kid. Probably almost everything. My mom kept most of it. Kindergarten, grade school. I still have these drawings, and when I look at them, I can remember where I was sitting. I can remember how old I was. I just remember how exciting it was I would copy things from books. I'd go to the library and take out books, and I'd be inspired by the books, and I would try to copy what I saw, and I can just look at those pictures, and it just takes me right back there. I graduated from high school. My high school senior year, I had 3 art classes in a row. That's all I wanted to do was paint and draw and focus, of course.
What high school did you go to?
Carrick High School. I had straight A's. I was so totally focused. I had a wonderful art teacher, Mr. Massero, who was also very instrumental, and Mr. Corpa too. I had jewelry class. I took classes with both of those guys, and they were wonderful teachers and encouraged me as well. I was told by the high school counselor, he said, what do you want to do? They call you in, let's help guide your life.
Yep.
And I said, I am not going to college. It is not for me. I don't even have the temperament for that. That's just not me. I just knew that. That wasn't even an option. I said, I'm just going to start my art business and be an artist full time. And he said, you'll never make it. These are exact words, but I think they fueled me a little bit. He said, you'll never make it. You have long fingers. Learn to type and be a secretary. I do have long fingers, and there's nothing against being being a secretary, but I said, no, that's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to start my own business. So I remember just getting up and saying thank you anyway, but goodbye. And I was brought up in a positive environment and we were not allowed to say can't. We were, not that we weren't allowed, but my dad just, he would encourage us and my mom to just try things, maybe fail. Of course you're going to fail. So what? Get back up, learn from it. You always learn from it and keep going. So when this adult who I respected and was listening to, first time in my life, an adult said, you can't do that. I mean, my grandparents were artistic, everyone around me, my family. So it just kind of, whatever. And about 8 years after that, I was actually hired by the same school to come back and teach. I was already then 8 years in business, 6, 7 years in business, whatever it was, 7 years. And I was teaching an after-school program, an airbrush program. I did go looking for that guy, but he was gone. I don't know why, but he was gone. But I would have loved to just catch up with him and say, hey, I've been in business for 8 years, and they just hired me to teach an art class.
So out of high school, did you open up a studio, or
my
did you
dad,
just work that up?
being a contractor, had his own little office
Okay.
in the Southside Slopes, and he said, "Well, you just want to do your thing," and they encouraged me, just do whatever, but if you're going to do it right. File your name, get a tax ID number, pay your taxes, keep records, open up, just do it legitimately, and so I did, and I borrowed about $30 from my mom and dad, and I bought some markers and paper. So my dad said, well, while you're trying to find yourself or figure it out, why don't you sit in my office and answer my phone for me? And so I did, and he had a bulletin board, and I would draw cards. I would make greeting cards for everyone in my family. Mm-hmm. And he said, why don't you just, do whatever you want here? And he let me use his space too. So I started drawing cards and sticking them on his bulletin board, and the people would come in to sell my dad windows, and they would buy my cards.
Wow.
And within, maybe a year, he started moving out his Windows samples and his things, and he let me bring more things in, and eventually it was my store. I did come up with the name of the business, Maria's Ideas, in 1982. And then he just kind of let me take over because he was an artist too, and he was kind of living through me, I think. And years later, I can remember him saying, people used to say, oh, you're Dan's daughter. He said, now they say, oh, you're Maria's dad. And that was kind of cool.
So when do you think you realized that I've made it? This is working for me. I
don't think I've ever not thought that. I just there was just never any notion that I would fail. I just never thought about that.
What was one of your first big customers where you were just so excited and you called your dad and said, okay, I got a big job here?
Probably, the first true customer that was
commissioned work.
Right, was a woman that sold windows to my dad, ordered, I think, 3 dozen cards. So I was sitting there answering my dad's phone, drawing cards. So I'd be like, I can't just sit here. So I bought an airbrush, and I taught myself how to airbrush up there. And my dad, of course, encouraged me. I bought the compressor. He showed me where to go buy a compressor, and he built like a little doghouse for it, kind of outside. They were noisy back then.
Right.
And he had a little switch inside the office. And I would just flip the switch, and my compressor would come on, and I started doing airbrush T-shirts and jackets and Pittsburgh Skyline jackets. And Sophie Masloff was mayor at the time when the jackets were very popular. Mm-hmm. And she actually commissioned and wore one of my Pittsburgh jackets in one of the parades, which was cool. Nice. I remember they came and picked it up and threw it in the trunk, her and her little bodyguards and her guys. And so when I was doing those jackets, they were nice commissions, and I stayed very busy. I would work 16-hour days at Christmas time, and that led to chronic tendonitis in my hand from airbrushing because it's a little trigger.
The trigger.
So my hand swelled up. I couldn't use my finger for a month or so. I was supposed to have surgery on my hands, and the surgeon maybe guaranteed about 50% usage of my hand. That's all he would say. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to fix it myself. So I stopped airbrushing because that's what caused it. And I started picking up magazines, and there'd be murals in there. I just started painting murals. I figured, okay, buy some paintbrushes and paint. And I ran around to all of my family and friends' homes and my house and started painting murals. Can I do it? How do I do it? How do I charge? How do you do this? And within 3 months, I was full-time painting murals, and that was 24 years ago.
So talking about murals, because I know you do a lot of murals.
Yes,
it's
I do.
a lot of your time. Do you generally have somebody hands you a picture or magazine, or you have an image in your own mind, and then do you sketch it with pencil first and then paint it, or
Right.
what's the process you have for doing those amazing murals
Sure.
that you have?
So some customers know exactly what they want. This is a picture from a magazine. I don't like to copy, but I will get inspiration from something. This is what I want. This is the wall that I want. Most people, though, it's the wall in their home. They don't know what to do with it. Or what do I do with this space? I don't know what to do. I can't hang a picture. It doesn't work. So I typically, as soon as I walk in a place, it just hits
Something
me.
hits you as to what it is.
Usually a couple ideas, but there's always one. And I'd say 95% of the time we go with that, because if they trust me with my judgment, my expertise to design that. So that's typically what happens. But again,
So then you're designing it with a pencil?
right. I'm old school still. I use a computer for some things, but mostly the artwork and the sketches, they're all done by hand. Watercolors, colored pencil, pen and ink. I take a photograph of their space and I enlarge it and print it out and then draw on there. And again, it takes me back to those days when I was a little kid drawing and coloring. And there are still times after 37 years, I think, wow, I'm getting paid to like color and draw and the things that I did when I was a kid. And I'm like, am I getting away with something? Like, I shouldn't be having this much fun, right? I mean, I work hard all the time,
I know you do.
all the time, always working. It's
So
always on my mind.
An
But
average customer, they give you a wall and say
Yes.
the wall is 8 feet by 10 feet, something like that. How long of a job is that from the time you walk into that house and you say something clicks pretty quickly
Sure.
for you?
Sure.
But are you talking, a couple days
Some-
per house, or a
sometimes.
week, or a month?
Most jobs typically are 1 or 2 days. I'm pretty fast. I do the drawing for them. I don't even need to do the drawing most of the time. That's just for my client to prove it. Most of my jobs are 1 day, 2 days. I have done 4-day jobs, 6-day jobs. That's maybe 55 feet by 12 feet.
Little bigger walls.
Right. But most of them are a couple days. I just go to work and I'm like a machine when I get there. I'm tired when I'm done.
Well,
Emotionally, physically,
let's talk
mentally.
about Sarah's Candy.
Sure.
Okay.
Love
'cause
Sarah's Candy.
Candy, of course, that
I eat their
entire
chocolate every day.
building. Every inch of that building inside now, I think you finished every inch, unless there's a closet or
good
something
bit,
down
a
there
good
that
bit.
you haven't done. Tell us, in case our viewers aren't aware of, you walk into Sarah's Candy down in Canonsburg, the entire building is a living reflection of you. That entire inside of that building is
Right.
a mural done.
I mean, with the
by
exception,
Maria.
obviously, of their products and all, which take up a lot of space. But I do.
So how did that start?
I was painting murals for the Saris family and Athena Saris Sr. for many years.
At their
in her
houses?
home.
Okay.
And they had the fire 7 years ago. I
Right.
think that was whenever that
About
was.
that,
Yeah.
in the factory.
And
in
after the fire,
store.
right? So they were rebuilding in the store, and Athena called me, and they just didn't want to put the room with the big castle. They had mirrors and shelves and a lot of items, I guess, on shelving in there. And she said, "Can we do a mural behind the castle?" And she said she wanted to include a train and like a Candyland inspired thing. And so I designed the mural, and I put that up. That was actually. I did that right here in my little studio on
Okay.
canvas and
so
pieces.
So you put the canvas on the
Yes.
wall, and then
Yes,
take
because
it over
they're
there.
open every day. I could not spend months in there working and with paints and their chocolate all. So I did
You
paint
don't
that
want
mural.
to sit there and eat ice cream and
I
candy
would.
all
Oh,
day?
I've done that. I've
Okay.
done that when I applied the crystals and all. But so I did that first mural. That was maybe 20 feet, 25 feet by whatever, and then it came around the sides. And while I was in there, when we put it up, so within an hour and a half, the mural was up because I did the work here.
Sure.
Get it up. I have guys that install it for me, and then I spent a couple days applying crystals, and I made little handmade pieces of candy. I even enlisted my mom for that too, to help painting little mints and the sugar plum tree there. It's all handmade little pieces that we created here in the studio. So it was weeks and weeks of work in that, even though within an hour and a half the mural was up. And then she was so excited. She's like, "Well, what about that space right there?" And okay, run home, do another 16-foot mural. I got that up, and customers liked it. They were very happy with it. And then it just started to snowball. So then after that I did the ice cream parlor.
I know Maria for years. She did a lot of work for me and my family, but she made me 2 gorgeous murals of Greece. Of course, I'm Greek. So after I met her, then my son told me, I think that we need to do something in the ice cream parlor. I said, no problem. I called Maria and never thought we were going to do a 90-foot mural, but it turned out phenomenal. It's gorgeous. She is unbelievable. I called her, and she made a sketch, and a couple times we changed things around a little bit, and she came up with this. I love it, and I think I'm glad that you're showing everybody what she does.
I worked on these all summer. I lost count of the days and hours, but it was so much fun. I like Athena said, she said she wanted the ice cream cone murals. She gave me some ideas and different things that she wanted me to incorporate. And then what's wonderful about Athena is she lets me use my creativity and my expertise. She gives me the ideas, and then I figure out how to get everything in there. And all day I'd hear, what the heck did I order? I can't eat all that, because their portions are so big. And I'd hear like little ladies coming in for the little sundae, and they'd get this big giant sundae. But so that was an experience, and working in there with people, customers, but it doesn't bother me. And just talking to them and all. A few times, some of my trays with thousands of crystals and beads and all got it almost, flew a couple times, so I had to watch that. But and then it just progressed to 4, 5, 6, 7 bulkheads that separate their rooms.
Right.
I did the animals, the big brass animals that were on the walls. So I painted those and bejeweled their heads, and then she bought a couple more. I think I have 5 animals there now. And then the rainbow in the back, they took the neon out, and I said, what about pretzel people, my little pretzel characters, pretzel people in the murals. I said, pretzel people, I'll bring them to life. So brought Keith in again, designed them, and he cut the pretzels out of the wood, and I painted them to look like chocolate. And then I made their little faces, and I made their shoes out of clay. And at that point, I probably outgrew my studio with all of the pieces I was working on at the same time. So at any given time, you come into my house, there are living room, kitchen, there were little pretzel people, high heel shoes with glitter all over them, eyeballs, lips all over.
Do they talk to you?
Well, I had, they all had little characters, just so. So little pretzel people.
Are you done at Sarah's?
Oh wait, and I did 3 ceiling domes too. 3 ceiling domes. I think I'm done. I said to Athena. Okay. So that was over the course of 7 years.
7 years.
450 feet of murals and artwork and animals. I said, Athena, I think I'm done. I think we're done. I mean, I've always had like something Saris to work on, which I love. They're just wonderful to work with. And Athena is very creative and comes up with ideas, and sometimes she comes up with really good ideas, but I have to figure out how to do it. And so far, we've worked really well together. It's been great.
So the average customers, the average consumers, you do art shows, correct? How do people find you, find your artwork? What kind of are you always at the Three Rivers Arts Festival, or?
No, actually, the Home and Garden Show, Pittsburgh Home and Garden Show.
Okay, you're always there.
I usually don't do too many shows. I do that. I've participated maybe 14 years now, 13, 14 years. Mostly referrals is how I get my work, word of mouth. Especially in the South Hills, everybody knows each other. Everyone's connected. Right. My first job was in my first paying mural was a friend's. She insisted on paying me. I didn't charge her too much. I didn't want to because, she was my friend. But it was in her kitchen, flower pots and all. And she is a hairdresser, and she took the photograph to her work and put it on her station.
So
and everyone in the South Hills is connected, and all of the people saw that. And that mural is still in her kitchen today, 24 years later. It looks great. I've actually gone in and added things around it. She's repainted around it. I'll go in and add some of the leaves back in. She would paint up to it. And her dogs, the dishes are right there. She cleans it all the time. And it's wonderful because that was my first real mural outside of my home or my friends' families. homes. Yeah.
So what have you been working on lately? I mean, what do you have this year? I mean, it's May. We're midway through 2019, but I know you have a couple exciting things that you started this year that you've never done before.
No. So I have the mural jobs all the time, and I space those throughout. So I have my first book, kids book.
Okay.
Can I show my kids
Sure.
book?
Okay, show your kids book.
So when I was a child, I used to write my own stories. I have probably 500 stories in my head at all times, and painting. So I'm always frustrated because they'll never come out, all of them. And I always wanted to illustrate kids books, write kids books. I used to make my own little paper, tie them, the binding with yarn. You know, I still have some of them too. Fourth grade was a very creative year for me with my books. So I would write stories and illustrate them, and so fast forward,
So now you got
30-some years later, and again, the connection with Ceres, which is pretty cool.
So what's the title of the book?
This is called The Day the Chocolate Melted Away. I was at the grand reopening after they had the fire. They renovated the store. I was in there with the first large mural that we had installed in the castle room, and so this story came out. The author Dave Howard wrote the story. He heard about it on the news. He wrote the story. He published the book at that time, and they sold the books at Ceres. Fast forward 7 years later, I did a show in Monroeville, which I don't typically do that show. I thought, I'll do it again. I think I did one other time. It's not a really big show, but I just felt like I should do that. So I was in the show. That was this past November. And a man walked into my booth and he said, "Hey, you're the lady that did those Ceres murals." I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Do you want to illustrate my book?" I said, "Yes." And then he told me it was the Ceres story, the Ceres candy story about the fire, that he had done it before, but he wanted to redo it because he did it really fast. So that was middle of November.
Okay.
And by March 1st,
So-
it was done,
So 4 months.
published. We had it, so it's my first book, yay!
Congratulations.
And he was wonderful. He allowed me to just completely illustrate. Everything was 100%. He just let me do my thing. He said, "Read it, put your spin on it." He did not have me
Critique
change
it for you.
anything.
That's nice.
And I feel anytime someone hires anyone with a talent or service, if you let them do their thing, their specialty, the job's going to come out better. With artists, if you limit the artists, you kind of get tighter with your work. You're restricted. If you see the artist's work, whatever type of art that may be, and you like their work, let them do their thing, and every penny will be worth it because they will be able to dive into it.
Well, that's almost, I know it was last year, not this year, but right behind you is our Studious Sloth.
The sloth.
That was similar to that.
Yes.
We commissioned you to do
Yes.
work for the Bethel Park Public Library.
Right.
Maria, we're very excited. I mean, you've been working a month plus on this gorgeous sloth as a commission piece for the Bethel Park Public Library. And we're here at the print shop where it is that you have all the prints made that we're going to be selling to the general public. So it has to be an exciting day for you. Yes, the print's done. Yes, you get to sleep and not worry about it, but it's your baby. It's your project.
It is my little baby, yes.
And tell us how you feel being here at the print shop, watching Mike, the artistic director of the prints.
I know, he's the best.
What's he doing, and what's your thoughts? What are you feeling like when you see these being printed, and how you're adjusting and so forth?
I feel several different emotions. I'm so excited to have it over and off when I have a project that I'm working on. It just weighs on me, but in a good way.
Right.
But it's done. You're happy with it. Everybody's happy with it. To get to this point, it's now I can get excited. It's hard to get excited about a project that's happening until I know my part is done.
Right.
Now we get to this part, and to see him come to life. I mean, as a child, dreaming of being an artist, to see something like this happening. I mean, it takes me back to when I was 3 years old, 5 years old, drawing and coloring in my mother's kitchen and picturing things like this, like someday. And here he is.
So at the end of today, though,
yes,
when we're done, when we're leaving here, you're taking the original, and you'll have all your prints that you'll leave here with
and
all the
I will
prints.
sit for hours and hours and hours and number each one and sign each print,
one.
limited edition. Yes.
So the original of this
Yes,
one
the original is at the
library,
Bethel Park, and the
and it will always be there.
yes, limited edition prints are available, which goes to help the library. So, yes, customers can go to the library and buy that.
Now let's talk future. Okay,
Future.
something else that you just finished. This, and I'll help pick this one up. This is more of the future, what's coming
Yes.
forward and so forth. Tell us about this amazing piece of
Yes.
artwork.
So this is glass.
Okay.
This is one of my paintings, which you can see over there is on canvas. I've done prints of this. It's the actual original was 6 foot by 9 foot, somewhere in there, big canvas mural. And this is on glass. So a Maggio glass design.
Out of
I
Detroit.
partnered, yes, out of Detroit. I partnered with them and 2 other artists, my husband, John Oprasic, and then JP, Durrell Photography. We are their exclusive artists. And
This is
so
for the world.
the world.
Yes.
It's
So now you-
international.
so
Yes,
now
we're just
you're
getting this going.
international, right.
So any artwork that someone may need, I can come up with something. My husband, JP Photography, and it's printed on the glass. It's printed on the back. So you can use this in a shower stall, a backsplash. You can hang it just as art glass. You can use it as a room divider. Restaurants,
Fireplace.
hotels, fireplace, homes, businesses,
And anywhere that you need glass, you can have
or
your
art,
artwork.
or art,
Or
and
art.
and you don't necessarily. It may be you want art in a place where there's moisture, and you don't want to hang a framed print. You don't want to hang a canvas. You can hang the glass.
So those roses that you were painting this morning
Sure,
can be done on a piece
that
of
could be a
glass.
backsplash behind a
That-
stove.
this has to be exciting
It's
for you.
very exciting. I'm almost so excited. I kind of don't want to think about it because I get overwhelmed because it's endless. I have so many ideas in my head
No,
too.
I mean, I was over in Europe recently, and I saw
Okay.
some glass, and I thought of you and JP and Jono, and
Yeah.
I can't find anything like this in
No.
the United States. So it's
Cool.
very, very
Yeah.
unique, and,
Yeah.
and I'm very excited for you.
I'm
on,
very excited,
where
too.
the future is going to be. So everything you've done in the past 40 years
Yeah.
can be reproduced on
Right,
glass. So-
absolutely. And people say, "How long does it take you to paint that?" Now I started saying, "Oh, 3 days and 50 years."
Yes.
Or 37 years professionally, because so much of everything I've done over the years, and the same applies to Jono and JP's work. There's a lifetime of knowledge and experience that goes into something. And sure,
Right.
like that painting, maybe that took me 20 minutes to do that base painting.
But it's a
But
lifetime
if I
of work.
did that 20 years ago, it would have taken me 3 hours.
Right.
You know, you just you learn and grow as artists. But anyone can imagine, we can print on glass, and wow.
So you're not ready to retire, right?
No,
You
never.
got many years, so
no.
people could just get a hold
I'm
of
just
you
getting
through-
started. I do really
Okay.
feel like I'm just getting started. I have so many more ideas and so many things to do. I do want to teach though too. I would love to like corral a lot of young people that are trying to figure out what to do with their energy, and sometimes maybe they get in a little bit of trouble because there aren't places for them to go anymore.
Right.
Pools close, parks close. They're sitting around. They get bored. Whatever. I would love to teach young people, and I also teach some older people too. But I would love to inspire other artists. I hope I inspire other artists to just get creative, paint. There's no limit. Just do it. Figure it out. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time
Thank
to show
you
us
so
your
much. Thank you.
studio,
Thanks. Thanks
your
for
artwork, what's coming up in the future.
exciting.
Sarah's Candy, the whole bit. It's always a thrill to hang around with you and your artist friends.
Well, thank you.
So thank you for tuning in to BPTV. I'm your host, Andy Amrine, and today we had an amazing journey in the life of Maria DeSimone Prasek. We love her artwork. It's just absolutely gorgeous, and I appreciate her taking the time to show us around. I hope you enjoyed the show, and I'll see you again around town soon.